Okay, so how do I see it here? And welcome to today's Facebook Live. I'm really excited to be here with Cake Stuff today. For those who don't know me, my name is Barea and I am from Etoile Bakery. And I'm going to be showing you today how to make a unicorn and rainbow cake. I'm going to just give it a few minutes to allow people to join. I'll just have a look here. Do give me a thumbs up. I've got my notes to the side, so apologies if I do look to the side from time to time, just so that I can see what everybody is writing. But if you could just give me a thumbs up if you are on there, so that I know that I'm not talking to myself and that we're in the right place. Okay, so just to show you a little bit about what we're going to be doing today, I have one which I made earlier in true Blue Peter style. So this is the little unicorn that we're going to make to go on top of the cake that I've got already covered over here. And this one here is an 8-inch cake that I'm going to be working on today, but the size doesn't really matter, you can use whatever you like. And I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute little unicorn figure to go on the top and a lovely rainbow to go at the front as well. This is one of my most popular cakes that I get asked to do, so I just thought it would be a nice one to share with you. So have I got anybody there? Is anybody here? Just going to see if I can see any of the comments coming through. Hello, great, okay, yes, I can see some hellos. Lovely to see you. So we've got a Sarah, Eliza, Jackie. Hi there guys, lovely to see you. Do let me know where you're joining from. I always think it's really fun to see where people are watching. I'm here in London at the moment and it is absolutely scorching. I think it's about 31 degrees outside, so we're having a real heat wave over here. So do let me know where you are. But I think we've got some people on with us. I'm going to make a start. So like I said, we're going to start by making this little unicorn figure here. So what I've got is I've already prepared some modelling paste, and I've got modelling paste as you would expect in all these different rainbow colours. And the one that I really quite like to use is this Saraceno modelling paste. You can get it from Cake Stuff. It's really good. It comes in really beautiful, vibrant colours. This one here is the orange that you can see. And come in nice sort of large tins as well, so they're quite a good buy. So these are the ones that I'm using today. Sometimes I do, there are various ones that you can use, but these are the ones I've chosen to use today. Anyway, I'm going to start with the white modelling paste, and we're going to start making the body of the unicorn here. So always good to have just a little bit of a knead, just to warm your modelling paste up. And so it doesn't have too many creases and things in. So give it a good roll between your hands, and just make it into a good ball shape. And really you're just wanting to try and get rid of all of the creases that you form when you sort of knead it and get it nice and soft and malleable. And then what I'm looking to do, and here's one I made earlier, because actually I quite like to leave my bodies to set a little bit before I put the head on the top. And so I just thought I'd make one earlier so it's nice and set. But you can see here it's sort of like an elongated teardrop shape, so a bit wider at the bottom and coming in more narrow at the top. And the way I do that is I get my ball, and you just pop it down on your work surface like so, and then just between your hands, just gently roll and press at the same time. And it should just come into this sort of teardrop shape. And you want it to be sort of about half as thin at the top as it is at the base. I don't know if you can just see that there. And there we go. So then I'm just going to trim the top off the top, which I'm going to use my bigger knife. And I know that Kerry had a pink knife, the same as mine, when she did her live earlier in the week. So it's obviously a favourite, this one. I think you can get it from Cake Stuff. When Kerry was doing hers, it sold out. So I don't know if there are any more available, but Cameron was definitely going to get some more. So just trim the top off like so, because then your head, when you put it on, is going to sit nice and flat. It's got a nice flat surface, so you'll just find it rests more easily like that. And in my figures, I always put a little cocktail stick because it just helps provide a little bit of backbone and a little bit of structure. So I have tons of cocktail sticks always to hand, and I'm just going to pop that down inside like so. And then what I would do is just leave that for sort of half an hour to just set a little bit before you start putting the head on. So I'm just going to put that one to one side and take out the one that's been sitting. So this one is nice and firm, as you can see. Now, I haven't been checking any questions. So we've got West Sussex, Cambridge, and we've got Cumbria, all over. Is it as hot in all those places as it is here? It's absolutely baking here. So next to do is the legs. And these are simply made with some of our modelling paste. And what I do is I just cut off from my blob here 2 pieces that are more or less the same sort of size. And then roll those into a ball. So it's about the size of a macadamia nut, I think, that one. And then place it down, same as we did before, place it down onto your work surface here. And between your hands, just give it a little roll. And what I'm wanting to do is create this flat end and have a more pointy top part. So I'm just rolling it up between my hands. And you want to achieve this sort of a shape that I've got there. And actually, I'm going to make it a little bit more pointy at the top, because this is going to be the bottom leg that goes around the body. So if it's a little bit more pointy, then it will just fit a bit nicely. If you can hear sort of thundery sounds upstairs, my daughter is homeschooling up in her room. She's moving her chair around, so apologies for that if you can hear her. And then for the other one, I've just taken a little bit extra because I thought it wasn't quite big enough, so I'm just now going to roll this one the same. So there we are, I have my ball and place it down on my work surface again and just roll it up between my hands like so. And then you can just place them next to each other and see if you've got them more or less the same. Like so, perfect. And then for the hooves, they're just simply a little disc that we make. So take a smaller blob this time, sort of about the size of a pea. Roll it into a ball. Everything always seems to start with rolling it into a ball when you're modelling. So always start with rolling a ball. And then for this, we're just going to simply press down to create this sort of little disc, like so. And then the same for the other side. So into a little ball and then just press down. And there, hopefully those are more or less the same size. And then over here, I've got my edible glue. Now, I always find that it's better to buy these great big, I like these sort of big tubs of edible glue that you can get from Cake Stuff. And I've got here just an old glitter pot, which I then fill with glue. And I just sort of fill it a little bit at a time because it just seems to be easier to have this little pot like this to work with than a great big one. So if you've got little pots hanging around, it's quite a nice tip to do that. And then you can buy the big tubs of glue and save yourself some money. So then to attach that, we just paint a little bit of the glue onto the end of the foot and pop that on. And that's just his little hoof there. So same on the other side, a little bit more glue. There we are. And then we attach these onto my figure. So I can see that my figure, if I show you the overhead camera there, it's just very slightly cut at an angle down. So this side is the front, so the head sits ever so slightly at an angle coming down. And so that part there is going to be the front. So I want my legs to wrap around to the front. So I attach those round just with a little bit of the edible glue. switch those on, like so. And there we are. And we're going to paint the hooves gold at the end, but I'm just going to leave them for now because I just want them to set a little bit before I do that. And so for the front legs, you do those in exactly the same way. So take a little bit of your paste off. So I've not been checking any messages. If you've got any messages at all, do shout. If you've got any questions, if I'm not clear with something as I go along, please do let me know. So here we are, into a ball again. And then the same as before, we want to create that foot at the bottom. Oops. And then we just roll it up between the hands. This one doesn't want to stand up. There we go. And for the front ones, we want them to be a little bit smaller than the back one. So this needs to just sit at the front. Just going to check it's about the right size. And we do the same for the next one. So my ball. And I just make a nice, oops, didn't want to stand up. So just make you a nice sort of, it's like an elongated cone shape really. So like that. Is looking good. Yep, they're more or less the same size. That's good. Don't want to have a wonky, we don't want to have a wonky unicorn. So then with the hooves, same as we did before. So roll your pea size into a little ball, and then with your finger, you just flatten it down. Really nice and simple. So there we go again, roll it into a ball and flatten it down. And so we attach these again onto the ends of our feet. And those can go now onto the body. Are these in the way there? Let me smooth those over slightly. There we go. So those then can just go up against the unicorn's tummy. And you can see he's starting to take shape there. Oops. There we go. Okay, so next we're onto his head, and I do the head in all sorts of different ways depending on what I'm feeling like at the time. Sometimes I do sort of a big nose at the front, sometimes it's a small nose, but today I'm going to do one like this one here, so it's a bit of a smaller nose at the front to the back. And so what I always think you should do before you start with the head is just get your paste, roll it into a bit of a ball, and just see, does that sort of look, before you spend time moulding it, does that look about the right sort of size for the head? I quite like a big head on my figure, so I'm going to go a little bit more than that. So I can just pop that down there. Yeah, I think that's about right. So again, we roll into a nice ball. Sorry, I haven't been checking for questions again. It's a lovely day in Cumbria. That's great to hear. Glad you think the figure is cute, Yona. I'm glad you like it. Do let us know where you're from. Brilliant. Okay, so here we are. I've got my ball here, all nicely rolled out. All the crease is gone. And so to make the shape that we want for the head, we're just going to get your other hand and just roll it across the front of the ball. And what we're wanting to do is just create an indentation. So I'm going to use my finger now, just pressing down very gently like so. So there you go. And you can see there that it's just creating this shape where you can see where the eyes will go and you can see where the nose is. And once you're happy with how that looks, we can then pop that on top of our cocktail stick. Now I think my cocktail stick is going to be too big and it's going to stick out the top of his head, which I definitely don't want. So just give your cocktail stick a little bit of a trim. And then we can pop a little bit of glue. Don't want it falling off. and then the head goes on. And with the head, because it's quite heavy, you can just let its weight push it down so that you don't cause any damage. And then just check. It's always difficult when you're trying to do something at an angle so that you can show the camera, but there we are. That's looking good to me. So that is his head on. And then at this stage, it's good to put in some of the details. So I've got here a really useful little tool. It's a ball tool with a really quite teeny tiny ball on one end and a slightly bigger one on the other. I think that one's probably about 1/4 centimetre and that's about 1/2 centimetre, so they're really teeny tiny. And I'm going to use the really small one for his nose, or her nose. And that is going to go just a little one there and a little one there. And then for the eyes, we're going to go a little bit wider. So just on the outside of the nostrils. There we are. Great. And next I'm going to make the horn. So just want that a little bit of time to set before I put it on the top. And this is a really useful way of doing it. I think it's quite a good way of doing it. So again, you just get your white modelling paste and we want 2 pea-sized lumps. Do always make sure that you keep your modelling paste in a bag because it will just form a crust and go all bitty if you don't. So make sure you've got lots of freezer bags to keep your modelling paste in. So roll your bowl as always, and then what we want to do now is to create a long thin sausage with a point at one end. So you want it to have quite a fine point, just like so there. And we want the same with this one. So we will just do a nice long point. Like so. And then with your glue, just down one side on one of them, just paint a strip down of the glue all the way down, and then pop your other one on top like so. And then we're just going to twist them. So literally just gently between your hands, twist. And you may feel that you need to pull it slightly to elongate it. So I'm just pulling ever so slightly at the end to create a nice thin horn. You just work it around until you've got the right length. I think that's about long enough. And snip that off at the bottom. And then we're going to need a little bit of support to go in this. So again, I've got my cocktail stick, but it's a bit too long. So we just want to trim that to size. And then pop it in your edible glue so that it sticks as you pop it inside, and very carefully just pop that down inside the horn. And there we go, that is going to be ready to put on in just a moment. And because it's got this stick in, you don't want to, when I come to put that in, I don't want to just put it down and squeeze the horn. So it's a good idea to just make a pilot hole. So using the other cut-off part of my cocktail stick, I'm just going to, between his eyes there, it feels a bit mean, but it's going to put a little hole in there like that. So when I come to put my horn in, I've already got a nice little pilot hole there ready. Okay, is everybody with me? Everyone's gone very quiet. Do let me know if you're with me. So, on to the ears next. And the way I do the ears is same as always with the little balls to start with. So I'm going to take another pea-sized amount of my modelling paste and roll it into a ball. And then what I want to create this time is I want to create a teardrop shape. So just using your other hand, just press down on one side. Oops, rolling around the place. And just create this nice teardrop shape like so. You need to try and get them more or less the same size so you don't have wonky ears. So there we go again, that one. Yep, they look more or less the same, that's good. And I'm just looking for my Dresden tool, which I think I put away. So Dresden tool is such an amazing tool. They are so, so useful. I use it for almost everything that I do involves a Dresden tool. If you're going to have one piece of kit in the kitchen, it's definitely this one. So to make the ears, when you've got the teardrop shapes like so, I get the spoon side of the Dresden tool and just press down in the middle. Not all the way to the top, but just before the top. Do it on both sides like so. And then to create the ear shape, you literally just pinch in at the bottom and it gives you this beautiful horse ear shape. So I do the same on the other side, you just press in at the bottom and there we are. And I'm just going to trim a little bit of the bottom off, they're a little bit long at the bottom. And then to attach those onto his head, I'm going to take the cone tool and pop two little indentations where I want them to be. So. And we'll put a little bit of glue inside each one. And then the ears should just sit quite happily down in there like that. You can see he's starting to come together. So a little play with them if you need to. Oops, just squash that one. Careful you don't squash it. There we are. Perfect, so now I think this should be okay. It's probably a little bit soon, but I'm going to pop my unicorn horn in because I need to show you how to do the mane. Probably I would leave it to sit a little bit longer if I was doing this in normal life. So there, just pop that down. And with that hole already there, you can see it's quite easy. So there we go. Now for the mane, the one that I've got here has just got a pink mane, but I might do a rainbow mane on this one, seeing as I've got all these lovely colours out. I think it'd be quite fun. So I'm going to choose for the front, I think, some of the warm colours, and we'll go through to the cooler colours at the back, seeing as it's such a lovely day. So to make the hairs, I have a way that I always use. I've got a bit pinky here. So quite simply, get the colour that you want to make the hair from. Give it a little roll out. And between your hands, again, a bit like we did before, you want to create this really thin point. But when you're doing hair, you want it to be really, really fine. So you want it to come to as fine a point as you possibly can. And then just cut a slight angle at the top. And these are going to be the hairs that we end up putting on. So I'm going to do 2 red. So you can see there again, it's really, really quite fine. And then attach with your glue just to the top of his head there. And then what I quite like to do is just sort of flick them out so that they look like they've got movement, and give them a little curl. And so the same on the other side. And just give them a little flick out so they've got a curl. And it just gives them a little bit of character, which is quite cute. I'm going to do a little bit of orange at the front as well, so we've got the 2 colourways at the front there. So in exactly the same way. Oops, you can keep it on your hand. So just roll to that really, really fine point like we did before. And then cut it down, and again. There we go. And actually I've already got plenty of glue on there, so I don't need to put any more glue. And then this one, perhaps just curl it across that one like so. And there we are. So you can see it sort of creates that lovely effect of a mane. And then I'll do one more of each of these colours going down the back, and then we'll bring in some of the other colours as well. So let me just check. Everybody doing okay? Do ask me if you've got any questions. So for the bit that's going down the back, we want them to be a little bit chunkier than the ones at the front there. I'm just going to neaten that up at the top there. But the principle is exactly the same. So just roll a bit of a chunkier bit between your hands to create that really nice fine point again. Oops, don't knock him over. And then cut at a slight angle. I just think it's easier to attach this bit if it's cut at an angle. That's why I do that, and it goes to a slightly finer point at the top. And then just add your glue around the back of his head. And I'm going to curl that around like so. Pop that back in. And the same for the orange. So we just give it a nice roll. What's everybody up to today? Has anybody been out in the sunshine? We have had the most amazing weather since lockdown, haven't we? It's been beautiful. So there we are. So there's a nice point there. Cut it off at an angle, same as before. And I'm just going to add that along. And this one is a little bit longer than the other one. And curl that one back on itself as well. And then I'll just follow the rainbow colours down. So we'll do yellow next. Let's see. And we'll just trim it again at a bit of an angle. There we go. Add that down, and again I'm going to just curl it around because it's just nice to have a little bit of movement in the hair, I think, when you're doing it, or the mane, I should call it. And I keep going for each one. And I do love doing things in a rainbow sort of formation. I think it just always looks so pretty. And with the NHS rainbow at the moment, it's definitely quite popular. Rightly so. So on this goes, keep coming down. And with these colours, with the yellow and the green, I added a little bit of white to them to make them a little bit more pastel, because the way they come straight out of the packet, it's quite a strong, sort of very primary colour, sort of yellow and green. They're sort of very bright. So I just think on these sort of quite pretty cakes, it's quite fun to sort of just take the colour down a little bit. So I blend them with a little bit of the white, and just to create something that's a bit softer. And the same for the blue, actually. All of the ones in the middle I did. So I did with the yellow, the green and the blue, I just added a little bit of white. So we are getting there. So again, cut it at an angle. We can just go on here. It's a little bit too big at the top, so if you need to trim it a bit more, do. And you can sort of have them curling over the top of each other. Quite like that. There we go. And then the last last one is the purple. So just a nice strip of the purple. It's a really beautiful purple that comes with the Saraceno. It's really, really nice. There we go. And these craft knives are just excellent to have as well. They are so, because they're so fine, they just get into little teeny nooks and crannies if you need to just cut something really precisely. So they're a really good thing to have. Right, so there we go. That is my purple one done. I'm going to loop that round the other way. That's all looking good. And so then for the tail at the bottom, I think we might just do the cool colours to contrast with what we've got at the front. So we'll do purple, blue and green at the bottom. And these ones, we just want a chunkier piece of hair basically. So it's the same that we did before, but just a little bit chunkier. So do the roll and bring it down to your point. Like so. You can see I've got it quite nice and wide at the top there. And I'm going to cut again at my angle as I did before, as that will sit just nicely on the mat. And then it's a matter of bending it around. So let me just add some glue so that it sticks. Touch that round, like so. And then, oh, it's not touching. There we go. And then just have a little play with it. You want it to just look sort of hair-like and pretty. So curl it around like so. And we'll do the blue one on top. Actually, the blue one will be next to it and the green will be on top. So exactly the same as before. There's a lot of hair rolling out in this one, for sure. But it's worth it. It looks really pretty. So there we go. Cut at an angle. Don't want that bit there. And make sure you have got it nice and fine at the bottom. Mine wasn't quite fine enough there. Otherwise it doesn't quite have the same look about it. So there we go. With some glue. And what I'm going to do with this one is just sort of overlap them a little bit, because you don't want it all to be too samey. So just overlap it and have that curling around. And the last bit of hair is the green. And you can see this is a nice pastely colour. So give it a little roll, and then we want to go to our nice fine tip. And then, oops, this one can go on the top of these two. And we'll just, where's my Dresden tool? So just using the Dresden tool, I'm going to just give that its shape too. So just curl that around. And you can see that that gives it a really lovely tail shape there. As I've been moving him, I've managed to move his hooves. There we go. Get those back on. There we are. So he is starting to take shape. Can you see him there? It's just starting to take shape. So finally, before we do the gold, I want to put his eyes in. And before I put in the eyes, I'm going to add some eyelashes, which I do with this. It's a food colouring pen. I'm trying to see what they call it. But basically it's a pen that's filled with food colouring, and they're just brilliant because it gives you a lot of control when you just want to do some fine details. So I'm just going to put some little eyelashes at the side. Just very lightly on like so. On both sides. And then what I do is I fill the sockets there with some royal icing. So I always have a whole range of colours of royal icing made up, and I'm just not sure if this one has got blocked up. I might have to run it under some hot water. Just give me a second. So if you find that with your royal icing, if you've got sort of, I get these little piping bags and I fill them with all the various colours that I need and have them ready to use throughout the week. And sometimes they do just get blocked up because you've got, obviously the royal icing just dries at the end. So just run it under some warm water, sorry, and it does just unblock it quite easily. So that's quite a good tip. So I'm going to now just fill these sockets with the royal icing. Just give it a little test. I don't want it to be too watery, so I'm just going to get rid of the watery end. And then I just fill that socket that I've made. Like so. More or less even. And sometimes what you find is you get a little peak when you do the royal icing. If you do little blobs, you can get a little peak. So just take a damp brush and just dampen that down, because we don't want peaks in the eyes. And when that's dried, we're going to add, like you can see in my little unicorn over here, I've put the little white dots in the eyes, and that's just done with some white royal icing, and it just stops them from being a zombie unicorn. Nobody wants a zombie unicorn, it just gives it a little bit of life. So that's quite good to do as well. Righty-ho, so that is him done. Oh, we just need to do the gold. So I'm going to create the gold on him using some gold dust. And my absolute favourite brand is the Fay Cahill ones, which come in so many beautiful, beautiful colours. So this one here is the Regency Gold. Sometimes I use the Shimmer Gold as well, which is, have I got that upside down? There we go. So sometimes I use the Shimmer Gold as well, which is beautiful too. But I really, really recommend these, they're just gorgeous. And again, I have one of my old glitter pots. I never throw out the glitter pots. I find them really, really useful. They're just such a good size. And I've got one which I just have always on the go for some of my gold, because otherwise you find you're throwing away so much of it. So I just tip a little bit out into my pot. And I use the Cake Stuff Rejuvenator Fluid to just make it into a nice liquid that I can use. So this is really, really cool. So pop this down. Some people I know use alcohol. I think you can use vodka. I always just use this because I find it works really well. And comes in a little squeezy bottle, which is handy too. So that's just useful to have in the drawer. And oh, wrong one. That's my glue brush. Where is my, there we go. I have my brush here, which is for the gold. And you want it to be a little sort of paste, really. Don't want it to be too liquidy, because then it's going to run all over the place. And what you find is that the rejuvenating fluid evaporates really, really quickly. I think because it's got such a high alcohol level in it, it all evaporates quite fast. So if you do put in too much of your fluid and you think, oh my goodness, that's too liquidy, just leave it for 5 or 10 minutes and it will evaporate and come down to a more paste-like sort of texture. So there we go, that is the sort of texture you're looking for, just like paint. And so I'm just going to start, can you actually see what I'm doing? Move that up the way as well. So I'm just going to start with the hooves, and you can see it goes on beautifully. So just carefully with a soft brush, just paint both of the hooves there. Like so. And then the front ones as well. And then you need to be really quite careful when you're doing the horn, just very, very carefully. And this is when you really want to make sure that it's not too liquidy, because you don't want him getting a drip of gold coming down his face. And if you want to leave everything to set a little bit longer before you put your gold on, that is also a good idea, just to make sure that everything is firmly attached and firmly set. But I'm just going to go right in and risk it. There we go. And don't forget to go right down to the bottom. There we are, I think that is good. So there we go, there he is. And I'm just going to move him very, very carefully around so that you can see him. And I'm just going to leave him to set for a little bit while I make the rainbow to go on the front of the cake. So let's just shimmy him over there, join his friend. And I have got gold on my hands, let me just quickly give them a wipe. Otherwise I'm going to be getting gold all over my rainbow. So how are we doing? Any questions? Is everybody good? Give me a wave and let me know you're still there. Is everyone following? Perfect, great. Okay, so let me just put the lid back on your gold. We don't want that spilling everywhere. Got a little bit of gold on my mat as well. But we will just carry on regardless, it'll be fine. So the way that I use my, the way that I make my rainbow to make sure that it has a really lovely round shape is I get a round cookie cutter and use that as my mould. And this is one of a set, and actually I should have got the set out to show you. It's concentric circles. They start at about 1 inch in the middle and go out quite big, and they're super, super useful. They're just really handy to have. So this one here, I would say is, I haven't actually measured it, but I think that's probably about 5 centimetres across, the one that I'm going to use. And this is what I'm going to build my rainbow all around. So starting with red at the base, I'm going to go from red out to purple. I want to roll a nice sausage, a nice thin sausage. And so I'm just going to give this a little warm up. And roll your ball. And so then to create my sausage, just move that over there a little bit. I'm going to start off by rolling it with my hands. But then what I find is that when I'm rolling with my hands, because your fingers aren't flat, you can sort of create rather an uneven sausage. It all goes a bit bumpy. So the way to go, I'm just going to show you the way to go against that to rectify it. Let me just get the right sort of thickness. So we want it to be more or less like that. So you can see it's not a very even sausage at all. So I have here just a regular cake smoother, and if you just roll this over the top of it, you find that immediately your rather lumpy bumpy sausage becomes a really lovely, smooth and even sausage. So it's a really easy way to get a nice even sausage every time. So give that a trim. And then this is the first piece to go around my cookie cutter. And we're going to do this in all of the different colours. So orange is next up. So again, give it a nice knead. And I find that the orange from the Saraceno colours is really a nice orange. It comes out, it is sort of a pastel orange, it's quite a gentle orange, but just looks really pretty. I think it's a really nice colour to use. So I haven't actually put any white in this one, this is as it comes from the tub. So once again, using your fingers, it's just easier to get it sort of down to size with your fingers because you can just press hard and work it so that it gets thinner, like so. And then in with the smoother. And I just want to check that it's more or less the same thickness as the red one that I've already done, and it is. So actually I'll just trim it to size. And to attach that, just with your edible glue, run along the inside of the join. And then just stick them together. And this is where it's just useful to have the cookie cutter in the centre, because you can press them together and make sure everything's well stuck, but you're not going to change the shape, you're not going to affect the lovely shape of your rainbows. You do want that to be a nice proper circle. So the yellow is up next. Oops, I've got a little bit of green. Yeah, there we go. So again, give it a little knead. So I can just see my head's been going in the way of your overhead view. Sorry about that. I'll try and lean back. So there we go again with the ball. And roll it out. So, and then in with the smoother. Just see if that's about the same. That's looking good. So we can give that a trim. In with the glue. And this rainbow I'm going to put against the front of the cake. But if you make it in advance and give it time to set, they look really pretty standing up on top of the cake as well. So that's sometimes what I do, and I put some cocktail sticks in it to just stand it up on the cake. That looks really pretty. So we're just going to run through all the colours. No, everyone's still being very quiet. So out we go with this one. And all of the items that I'm using here, I think Cameron will probably be pasting the links up so that you can buy them from Cake Stuff if you like. And if you want to go and join my Facebook group, I've got a little discount code up there for Cake Stuff as well. So it is a request group, it's free to join, but if you go over, it's Etoile Bakery Cake School. Is the Facebook group name, and I've got a code there which will give you a little discount off some of your goodies at Cake Stuff, so worth going and checking that out. So there we go. I'm going to just put my glue around, and on goes the green. Like so. So last two colours, just got the blue and the purple to go. I'm going to do a bit more than that, I might do it all. So roll your ball. And then roll it out. See? And just measure around. I haven't quite done that long enough. So obviously as you get further and further around, you need to make your sausages a bit longer, which I haven't done. There we go. Round it goes. That's long enough this time. With another nice bit of glue to attach it. There we are. And then finally we want to do our purple, and then our rainbow is done. And with the rainbow, I'm not going to pick it up and put it on the cake straight away, because I just want to give it a little bit of time to set before I do that. So we'll move on to another piece of the design before we do that. But let's just get it finished first of all. There we go. And sometimes I find with the purple colours in particular, you sort of get this unevenness in colour, so do be careful of that. If that happens, just give it another bit of a need. Just means that the colours have just not quite merged together quite properly, so just give it another knead. There we go, that's looking better. Roll it out. And then in with the smoother. Seems to be picking up some gold now. This has got some gold on it. But never mind, gold on the rainbow. It's not a bad thing. So there we go. I think it needs to be a little bit longer because the purple one's got the furthest to go. So let's just go a little bit thinner at this end. There we are. There we go, plenty long enough, excellent. And there we go, our rainbow is pretty much there. So your glue all the way around. And it goes. So, and that you can see is all done. So if I take that away now, you can see that we've got a beautiful, nice, even rainbow there. It's a bit wonky, so I'm just going to put it straight for you. They've all gone wonky actually, there we go. And then what I just need to do is just even up the bottom, because you can see they're not very even at the bottom. So just with your pink knife, or whatever kind of knife you've got, I just happen to have a pink one, I love my pink knife. Just go across the bottom like so, and just trim those endy bits off. And there we go. That is all there, ready to go on the cake. So I'm just going to pop this back in because sometimes things get knocked and I just want to make sure it stays in the shape that I've got it there. So I'll just pop it over there. And there's just a couple more things to show you before we start putting all of the cake together. So I've got over here some rainbow balls which I started to make earlier so that I wasn't going to be just rolling balls for hours and hours. And boring you all with that. So I've just got some of the balls there ready to go, and I'll just show you how I did them. The colour I've got left is the orange colour. And it's just a little cheeky way to make sure that you get them all quite nice and even if possible. Sorry, I don't know if you can see them there. Can you see them there? Is that better? So getting my orange, again, roll the ball, everything starts the ball, and we can roll it into a chunky sausage this time. And I want to then cut this into even pieces so that we get balls that are more or less the same size. So I want the sausage to be about sort of 1 centimetre in diameter. There we go, so sort of like that. It's a bit chunky at that end. And then just cutting, so just looking at the size of my balls over there, I want to cut these so that they are about the same size as those. And if you cut these just all into the same size, you should have balls that are all more or less even. That is the theory. So just take each little piece and roll them into a nice ball like so. And so sometimes with these I make more than I need. Sometimes you don't know how many it's going to take to go around the cake. So they do store quite well, but my only piece of advice, just if you're storing them, is to be careful. If you're storing, for example, some yellow next to some red or purple, you want to make sure they're not touching, because if they do, then you end up with a purple splodge on the side of your yellow or a red splodge. So it's good to try and store them in little compartments or pots where you just have the same colour stored with the same colour, and then you're not going to get them marking each other. As I've had that happen before. I've had two touching and you go to use them and you find you can't. So just be careful, the colours do transfer. So just roll these all into their nice balls. And these we're going to put all the way around the base of the ribbon, of the cake, instead of a ribbon. I think they look quite jolly and quite pretty, so. There we go. Oops, that's a bit squodged. I think we probably need about 7 or 8 of each colour. So there we go. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 8. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So pop that back into the bag. We don't need that anymore. And one last thing that we just need to make, oh actually 2 last things. We need to do the clouds and we need to do the stars. I just realised I think I haven't got my star cutters out, so let me just grab those. So my star cutters, I have these plunger cutters which come in a lovely set of 3, all different sizes, so those are really useful to use. I'm sure that Cameron will be able to post. There we go. Oh, someone's talking. Sorry, I've just realised you've missed the start. Will you be able to watch the video? Oh, and Cameron's answered. Thank you, Cameron. He's on it. So these, I think you can get these from Cake Stuff. They come in a set of 3 and they're super, super useful. So I use these all the time. And then I've also got a little cloud cutter. Someone just calling. It's live after all. Sometimes people call and I don't think we've turned off the ringer. So yeah, the cloud is going to go just at the base of each side of the rainbow. So I'm going to cut that out as well. So here is my white modelling paste again. And I'm going to roll this out. I don't want to roll it out too thin because I don't really have time for it to set. If I had time for it to set, then you could roll it out nice and thin and leave it to set and have a nice thin cloud. But because I don't have that luxury, I'm just going to cut it out a little bit chunky. There we go. And another one. And those will go, oops. Sometimes you get them so they don't cut very cleanly, so if that happens you can just with your finger just go around and just make that good. There we are. That's the problem with the plastic cutters, they sometimes don't cut as cleanly as you'd like. And so, oops, just roll that up again. And so then I'm going to just cut a few stars out as well because a rainbow cake should always have nice stars on it. So give that a nice roll out. It's all sticking a bit. It's quite humid today, everything is sticking to my board. I just need to put down a little bit of my corn flour. I always find corn flour works really nicely. I prefer it to using icing sugar, which I find can get a bit sticky, especially if it's a humid day. Oops. So there we go, that should be better now. Yep, there we go. Oops. Still sticking. Very, very humid. There we are. So just roll that out nice and thin. And then I'm going to cut a few of my stars out. So I've got a few of the big ones there. And you see I'm just rubbing it against the surface because it just helps to get rid of some of those jagged edges that you sometimes get. If you don't have a work surface like this, it can be quite useful to do it on a sponge as well. So if you've got one of those sponges that you thin your petals on, that's another good thing to just rub your plunger cutter against, just to get rid of those jaggedy edges. And then I'll do just a couple of small ones too. Teeny, teeny, tiny ones. There we are. All good. Pop those back in there. And we are ready to start putting everything on the cake. So let me just bring that over. Right, where's the back? So I've got there my ribbon on the bottom, so that is going to be the back. So first of all, I'm going to pop my unicorn over onto the cake. And what I tend to do is, because I don't want the unicorn to move around, it's quite good to put a toothpick up the bottom of him as well. So actually I might do it with this one where it's had a chance to set. This one's a bit firmer than that one. So with your toothpick, just pop it up inside your unicorn like so. And then with your glue, just a little bit of glue. Oh, whoopsie, it's got a mind of its own. With a little bit of glue, just paint that on the bottom. And then this is going to go down inside the cake, like so. That's all good. And then next I'm going to pop the rainbow on the front. So let me just turn it this way because I can't see what I'm doing otherwise. And it's a good idea to leave your rainbow to sit a little bit longer than I have, because mine will still be a little bit floppy, but we will go for it anyway. On the reverse side, you want to paint it with some glue. And we'll have a wing and a prayer that it gets on okay without collapsing. There we go. So pinch it over like so. And then just very carefully take it over and onto the cake. There we go. And then just sort of mould it around the cake like so. Can you see that there? And you can see it just looks really, really lovely. So the clouds then go on top of that. And the same as before, my clouds are rather chunky, sorry about that, but there we go. Those can go on one there, and one on the other side. That's how I play with them so they look good. Move him and him out the way. It's all getting a bit crowded with unicorns. There we go. And then the stars. I'm just going to put a couple of stars onto the rainbow. So it just adds a little bit of twinkle and fairy tale magic, I think. So I quite like to do things in threes. I think things always look best in threes. So I'm going to do one of each side, just a little triangle like so. And it just adds a little bit of cuteness to it. There we go, that's perfect. Facing slightly the wrong way. There we are. And then we want to put our balls onto the cake. So these, just very simply, you go around in rainbow formation. So just choose the colour to start with. I'm going to start with purple. And using a little bit of glue on the cake board and against the cake, so it's fastened from two sides, you just place these on and keep going round. So we go red next. Oh no, we don't. What am I doing? We do blue next. There you go. So red, blue, then green, and yellow. Totally rainbowed out on this cake today. Orange. And then you go to, oops. Oh, that's one. Sorry about that. There we go. Pop that over with the rubbish. And then the red. And you can see that it makes it really, really jolly having those around the edge, and then you just go on repeat. So just keep going with the colours. Blue, green, yellow, and orange. questions? Is everybody doing okay? Do you have a Facebook group? Yes, I do, Jackie, I do. Yes, so it's Etoile Bakery Cake School. So do go and have a look there. You just need to request to join, but I do try and get back and allow the request as quickly as possible. So go over there and have a look at what we're up to there. And you might also be interested, I'm about to launch an online cake school as well. So if you're interested in that, you can go to etoilebakerycakeschool.co.uk. And it's not launched yet, we're almost there, but it should be launched in the next few days. If you go to that homepage, there is a place where you can put your email address so that I can let you know as soon as it goes live. Or otherwise you can just follow on the Facebook group, and obviously I'll be letting everybody there know the minute that's gone live. But that's going to be a membership site, so there'll be loads of new videos exactly like this uploaded all the time. Should be a really exciting place to go and hang out, so do go and have a look at that. I don't know if Cameron can put the link there, he might be able to do that. If not, feel free to DM me, that's fine too. So there we go, we're almost all the way around. There we go. Green. Yellow. It's quite therapeutic doing all these colours. You can just sit and go into your own little wibbly wobbly world. Orange. I think I may just manage with the reds. There we are. Where are we? Blue. Green. Yellow. Orange and red. Good, I've done it. That would be sod's law if I just needed that last one. Oh, and I just need to squeeze in one last one. Can you squeeze that in? So there we are. There we go. All the way around. Good. And then what you do with the rest of the cake is up to you really. I sometimes just put some extra little stars on. If you wanted to put a message for a birthday, then you could write your message across the front. I'm going to just put a few little stars around my unicorn. And I would get some edible glitter, I think, as well, and give it a jolly good shake over the top, because what's a unicorn without some sparkles? There we go, just these randomly across the top. There we go. Oops, that's not sticking. There we go, I can keep those stars for later. I always have a pot on the go for things like blossoms and stars and anything that I make, sort of cutting out, because when you're doing the design, I find that you never really know how many you're going to need, and so I start cutting out loads of them. And they keep really well, so just have a tiny little Tupperware which you can put little excess stars into or little excess blossoms into, and then you've always got a stall ready to go. But there we go, there is the cake. All pretty much done. We've been rainbowed to death with that, but I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit further over, there we go. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, so let me just see, sorry, I haven't been looking at these. Let me just go through what we've got here. Oh gosh, sorry. Nobody was talking, now loads of people are talking, so I'm very sorry, I wasn't ignoring you, I just didn't think anybody was there. So I'm using, yes, so that's a colouring pen. I live in England. When it's hot like today, I make sure I keep an airtight bag with, sorry, I missed a whole load of questions. I have, my computer I don't think was keeping up with you all, so I'm really, really sorry about that. I'm just going to go back through them all and see what everybody was saying. Okay, so Emma, thanks for the good, not subtitles, all sorted now. It's the pink knife, there's the pink knife, yes. So I don't know if the pink knife is back in stock. Cameron was just asking about the pink knife. I hope it's back in stock because it is just an absolute favourite. So, Rebecca Louise, you shouldn't be able to sweat inside. Oh, sorry, I've missed what that one is. I think Cameron's been answering those ones. Tap the screen and press on the left. I think, oh, is there a way to turn off the subtitles? Sorry, I didn't know if the subtitles were on. I hadn't seen that. Hopefully that was all okay. Glad you like the cookie cutter to keep the shape. I find that it's really useful because sometimes as you're putting it together, you do find you sort of knock it and cause fingerprints and so forth. And if you spent all that time getting the nice even sausages for your rainbow, you don't want to be sort of touching them too much. So yeah, the cookie cutter tip works really well. So the knife is making me nervous. Oh, sorry, was the knife too close to me? I'm sorry about that, Megan. I hope it wasn't making you too nervous. So to colour your own modelling paste, yes, often I do colour my own modelling paste. I just find that sometimes they come in beautiful colours. So these Saraceno colours are such good colours already. It just saves time by having them ready made. So I really quite like those ones. I find that some of the Renshaw colours are really good too. They have really true, bright, nice colours. So those are often good too. But there's the purple one and there is the orange one that you can see there. So what else? So yes, the Eleganza. So Kerry was using the Eleganza. I do sometimes use the Eleganza modelling paste as well. It's another really good one. There's so many good brands to choose from. I think it's really just a matter of personal preference. So just have a try of all the different pastes and see which one you like best. Cake Stuff have a really good choice. So do go, and like I said on my Facebook group, there is a discount code for Cake Stuff. So if you want to go and try some of these, go and get the code, and you can get them at an even better price. Right, I think I'm getting these in the wrong order. I don't, because they don't seem to be quite making sense. So yeah, the colouring dust, Faye Cahill, those are absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love them. I've got them in all the different colours, and they're beautiful if you're doing a wedding cake. They create just beautiful bases to put things like edible lace on top of, or just some piping. They're just really subtle colours and have a really beautiful finish on them. So I highly, highly recommend her stuff. It's brilliant. So Pamela, sugar paste, but when design sets to dry, it has cracked on you. Oh, I don't know why that would happen. Maybe that's because it's too, you haven't kneaded it enough. I find that if you want to get a really good finish with your modelling paste and your fondant, you really need to knead it well before you use it, especially if you're working somewhere cold. At the moment in the UK where it's so warm, it's much easier in some respects because it's already warmed up, but then you have the problem with everything getting sticky, as you were saying for me earlier. But just make sure you knead it really, really well before you use it, and hopefully that should help stop that from happening. Sometimes as well, I find that if you use too much icing sugar, it can cause things to crack as well, because it just seems to dry out the texture of it. And that's why I tend to use corn flour. I find it's not quite so drying, and just don't try to use too much. Try and use as little as you can, and hopefully that will help with that. So Lillian, I live in England. When it's hot like today, I have to make sure I keep an airtight bag, and adding Trex or crisp. Yes, that is a brilliant tip as well. So using Trex with your, if you do find that you've put too much icing sugar or corn flour or something like that on your paste, the way that you can bring it back to life is adding Trex. And Trex is basically a vegetable fat. It's like a vegetable shortening. It's sort of a white solid fat. And it's really, really useful. If you're using, I don't know if you've ever used one of those modelling guns where you can sort of squeeze out long shoelaces of fondant. That's another really good thing to just loosen the texture of the fondant so that you can squeeze that out. So it is really useful. Perfect. Okay, so Pamela. I think you're all helping each other. I love it when you all help each other, that's great. Loads of really good tips on there. So have I answered everybody's? If one was further at the bottom and I didn't see it, sorry, I didn't see any questions for ages, and then obviously I didn't look for a while and everybody asked, or maybe my computer's slow catching up, that could be it as well. So try using 50-50 flour paste and sugar paste. Yeah, that's another good tip. The only thing you've got to be careful of is if you use fondant in your figures, it may not set quite so firm. So if you're using it for the body, what happens when you put the head on and it's got some weight on it, it can sort of sink down and you end up with sort of rather wide, sort of splodged figures. So just something to be careful of if you're using fondant in with your flour paste. So are there any other questions that I haven't got to? Do let me know now. I don't know, my computer may be slow catching it up again, so I apologise if I haven't got to them, so do let me know. But I really hope you enjoyed that video. It's been so fun being here. Thank you so much to Cake Stuff for asking me to come and join them and show some of my designs. I'd love to share some more things with me. So if there's anything that you'd particularly like me to show you how to do let me know. Don't forget to go and check out my Facebook group. It's Etoile Bakery Cake School, and that's also the name of my online cake school, so you can go and check that out as well. And do go and look at all these amazing products on Cake Stuff as well. They've got such an amazing choice of goodies up there to look at. I got a delivery just earlier today, so I need to go and unpack that and see all the lovely things I've got. So if there are any other questions, or if there aren't any other questions, I think we're good now. So I'm going to sign off and say have a fantastic day, enjoy all of this sunshine, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.